Hello, America, world. There are 5 parts of time's complete body, or forever nature's body. And this is the Bible sequence true as itself and as the relativity of questions, because there is a difference between its roles with why. For example, this is discernible when questions are asked. It is still being used to measure and maintain and sense for the breaching method, that had laws. If anyone met outside of internationally monitored conversations to speak, it was found out speaking about building homes. I learned this in notes at Central Connecticut State University. That person, everyone around them, was worse than just torture, guilt, things like that. Slavery was entrenched distinctly northern colonies and southern colonies because of a method that came from some ancient times. Took all the roles with itself to be increasingly incapable of countering things like criminal insidiousness, the ways it knew it would, and blaming the worst causes of it and use/s of it, blamed on other things, others, and ourselves. And it forced roles with that sustained, and then propagated roles self-value, keeping all truths in demonstration of the same thing. I mean, that appeared to be in demonstration of other as collusion in demonstration of the same thing. Before there are people that hurt other people in New York City, cities across the world, or suburbs. The suburbs were designed tactically denatured for this, to employ other things, others, or selves. Blamed also for the breaching method that America's founders told us to blame on the breaching method. Through our schools, other things, others, or selves are blamed formally. And the difference between when it's not that guilt, it's overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and criminal insidiousness natures of interbranch and/or intelligence and other state offices, corrections, judicial, demonstrably the same way, sickly distinctly, but sickly non-distinctly too, from the other states, and where we could discern to get through their illness/illnesses, syntactically manifest as they are actually manifest pretending other, and how they get away with pretending other, and screening the breaching method. So we have to, in other words, one way is by pretending people, summarizing what they say about others as an attack. One way that is gotten away with is pretending a case, the surface side A versus side B, Roe versus Wade. That's not a detail. Black pupils. If we can have, we still have other things, others, ourselves blamed for how the breaching method employed roles sustained against every single identity of a person who needs to describe how reason works, how logic works, how difference works. We have the same colorized, different colorized at the same time. We have the species, volume, science, individual, grouped, different/s, even if we created difference. And like, for example, this breaching method designed the suburbs in America and in Russia. And with the suits and ties and counters as collusions, not realizing, not fathoming how it was sophistication before countries A through Z. As roles with defenses of, quote, practical reason, unquote, not to make it about Immanuel Kant, make it about practical reason, postures of practicality. At the other sides of nuclear weapons, natures of negotiations, already collusions, like with things with psychiatry, tactical illusions, raw, all kinds of natures of organized crime, at the same time. And those are the ones, and from that place, that's all that, it's just concentrated there, though. But this is where we have the nuclear holding, crazy weapons, countries, A through Z, means to transverse the earth, being used remotely where they can't defend their roles in nature, with the nature of debate, how they get away with it. To understand this, you have to watch how the possessions over the North and South translated into the possessions over the Democrats and the Republicans' individual voices, because they are above locations, areas, and states, not just in America. A through Z, they are styles of practical reason, force, pretended, legitimate as styles, as nature that can't defend that and afford to discern how there is also the breaching methods involvement at A through Z. That was blamed other things other than self. So this is about the 5 parts of times, but complete body. And the way what it is, it's showing how we can discern itself 3 ways connected, bound, as the order of the finite, the smallest finite detail in the order of the finite. The order of what is active and grouped is hyper-additional with this. But and what is progressive as the seasons that are not here, but they are with that extent we know about to come. And where it makes questions, it generates them. But see, now we have been systems ulterior from the one that is hyper-simultaneous. So people pretend things are theoretical or debatable that are not debatable, and they've gotten away with this because the breaching method at countries A through Z uses and already used all sides in criminal and civil cases, the lawyers, the depositions, their family members, the same thing with the interbranch and intelligence tied to them and their state offices. Increasingly, they have roles with things like uses of bug spray, people on off the state judicial branch offices and the corrections offices has people involved with bug spray. Fire departments have roles with Russians and with medical campuses with psychiatry and with people with Pakistan, Afghanistan with psychiatry, mental illness, mental descriptions of how reason works, descriptions of differences. We have experts that are tactically delusions wrought and as collusions. There are people on Facebook involved also with co-defendants, a former director of the FBI and with their lawyer, Robert Chevalier, involved with East Hartford locations and names like a Scalora, and involved with the Saudis. They forced to collusions at the same time, while Saudis forced them to collusions with the World Trade Center attack, leading up to it in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center, and with the names next to it more and at the World Trade Center further. As one's increasingly on off the Connecticut State corrections and judicial branch offices that planted evidences with where and how we could discern at each age, roles with the predicate acts with facts delivery system method. And how we have not described this is because they're attaching everyone to faked and changed communications with everyone around us. And they're making faked exceptions because this breaching method showed them and shows them that how and why they need to hide things from the past, active group reasons, and things to come at location /S for the breaching methods motivations. But then it was at other locations, right back to all locations /S. And where it screens its motivations through people who will pretend their motivations for their uses of others' names or of others' evidences is legitimate. Well, and or not collusion, where truths are also used for lies and for worse than that. And to screen, and this is lies where predicate acts with facts are what were used leading up to the roles with that, are what motivated our side and the other sides to collude, also with WFSB of Connecticut, interstate. The same names have roles with next to Fox Connecticut News, and through time planting and fake intelligence all along Ridge Road in Weathersfield, I believe, and its conjunctions like Route 175 and all along Route 3. And this goes by the state judicial branch offices. Out of the state judicial branch offices, there are black themed, KKK themed child offenders, also medical, and with judges, family members, and roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and with the difference uses for federal evidences and federal rules of evidences crimes, methods, whole methods too, not just predicate acts with facts, and with nature uses. See nature as criminal insidiousness. I am not a lawyer, but also lawyers and their family members and the differences between them and the interbranch at the crime scenes, collusions at the formal scenes. They've been forcing quality. This is how everyone was motivated. For example, it's part of how everyone's motivated to force the qualities of fact treatment nature, aspects of fact treatment nature, like premises treatments, value treatments, and or sequence value validity treatment, or the value of something having been published to discern if it's valid or the other one is what someone else says. You got had you followed reason proper, the principles of reason properly, you would have learned that the James Madison and the founders behind him, they had a plan, and they went with that plan. And George Washington agreed to use that plan to force at northern colonies and at southern colonies less than there were entrenched northern colonies and southern, with slavery sickly distinctly against every single person, north and south. The black-white thing stayed in 1822. The Institute of Living was founded on the campus of Harvard Hospital, with slavery still entrenched North America and South America. Increasingly, people from the Institute of Living have been attaching little kids and their family members to fake and change conversations with themselves and with others. They have rules of wire crime acts and methods with Weathersfield police chiefs retired, with the same house, with a whole bunch of names involved with drugs and medicines, crimes with the kids. Federal evidence is crime, the whole different natures, qualities of drugs. And in other words, as the people out of the state corrections offices, with my neighbor, with people with the O'Brien, a Cololo, and a DeMauro, and their educators, involved also out of the state corrections offices and Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, and also with the houses and owners of businesses next to them. Involved also not even realizing with falsified police reports, and the evidence is relative to where and to how all sides in criminal and civil cases and the interbranch at the same time, including the Ninth Circuit. These are people from Connecticut also with Hartford courts in the Britain Superior Court affected confessions to me and requests for help. Because I found out former director of the FBI rolls with all sides of his depositions. They've been planting evidences with people from my grammar schools and from the school I went as 1 year for kindergarten. There's a Harris family, and there are judges and prosecutors and medical offenders of kids associated with Quinnipiac University, involved with a whole bunch of different countries, and their family members planting evidences on and off campuses, planting fake exceptions consciously, where and how it is relative and manifest. One of the things we have questions like why and how they could go have both sides of cases as collusion, self-value, pretending other, like with witch trials, and that's still pretended other for them. In other words, we have more. They have wire crime acts and methods associated with evidence is planting for waiting forensics through time has roles planting evidences on off campuses, including with WFSB, WTNH, and Fox Connecticut News at corners of streets, and recorded capacity demonstration firms involved with two speech class teachers I had in high school who are involved with drugs and medicines crimes with people from Washington, D.C., and all sides with the World Trade Center attack. And Saudi Arabia was forced to roles with the psychiatry and the people on and off all sides of Central Connecticut, of Hartford Hospital, who also confessed and recorded roles with Cubans, forced self-valued with the torture there, because they have roles with psychiatry, mental diagnosis with a whole bunch of nations, and people involved with where we need real health care, involved with criminally foreign influence / hyper criminally foreign influence health care. These are really the people that were involved with the worst war crimes. These are people that need individual leaders. See how they deal with positive, like, for example, President Trump and President Obama, but like President Biden, they wanted and need to debate values and how to survive, but leave everyone left out at countries A through Z. We're in how this breaching method tactically denatured the suburbs to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while simultaneously making more and more the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. If to collude with natures of industry, positive treatment, negative treatment, acts, methods of them. Now, looking away, blaming other things, others, ourselves, with the breaching method cost roles, because that breaching method is increasingly a value with the sciences and of our sciences, as of our histories, not just American history. That breaching method was here before modern religion's messengers had to leave their books. Like, for example, the Old Testament and the Quran, they both have parts that direct how to defend those books. But rather than defend those books the way they asked to be defended, people use the most knowledge of good and evil about those books to defend them out of sequence and pretend they know more than the other person, as styles and natures of logic that can't defend that and afford what is to be a short words with convictions proper to be, let alone to protract. So increasingly at all locations formal, and the difference between who's guilty, right, where, and how we were and are supposed to blame the breaching method per nature itself. Demonstrations, a breaching method is involved with witch trials, what they're about, no matter who made them up or who made up what in them. The slavery method, it was a torture, extortion, slavery, 3 ways method, and relative to where and how we are a value / value progression, individually grouped and together, and where and how the relativity of a special difference is part of our relativity's complete identity, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that inseparable from each subject individually grouped and together. So what came true before, what was first true per and as itself, that and as it actually, how it actually and is actually connected, the past, or relativity, the past, while we are past, present, grouped, active, but also again, progressive, but using its system, not other people's definitions of progressive or of, conservative, because the Constitution, there are conservations of its abridgments originally entrenched, and that's still used remotely self-value because of uses of names A through Z, of differences A through Z, by names A through Z, even every grouping, even everyone together, even if, in other words, it adapts That's how, relative to where and to how. So much as at once, pretend did not realize when we have black pupils, whites of eyes, to know that there are people in New York City who have black pupils, whites of eyes. And, and they have people telling them, I mean, they need hope. When all they need is someone to keep it real right there or get out of the way for someone who will. Because we're going to bring them injunctive reliefs at locations A through Z, everywhere the species body is, or Earth's a special difference will continually be forced from here, leaf of Hadi, and not for self-valued reasons known or discernible. In other words, we know the reasons why we're with the bridge systems. We know the reasons why we have to go to space, self-valued. But everyone misses how all the equations would change and means would. If we understand, if we use too, and don't leave out a special difference in the identity of the hyper-simultaneous. So what are these three? It is these three ways grouped. And the 5 ways, they also come with demonstration of how it is grouped, tied to this identity of hyper-simultaneous that has manifest our species volume, individual group difference /S, and species volume, and the other species the same way. Because it's showing us its identity relationship to itself, and the value of that, and how it is functional being. The hyper-simultaneous, also being this identity of hyper invisible but still discernible, that comes with all parts of grammar and features of the languages and of English, revealed as a grouped language. Before humanity, the sciences became criminally foreign influenced, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded, and worse. Only remembering that, rules with that, styles of logic in nature, using the names and the value of it, of the sciences and people of the sciences, where it is value, where it is not about. How nature's uses value is direct relativity to where names A through Z, how it uses identity, species volume science, how it is that hyper invisible but still discernible. Identity of hyper simultaneous that has us with the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time, because it is its identity making more hyper additional nature through difference. It doesn't want to kill itself. See, we have to understand a special difference. See, we have a concentrated identity of as itself to itself. But the more we ignore Earth's a special difference, because it's part of our communications also changed, fake, screened. Roles with the breaching method, everyone missed. All locations /S are used. This is also why offensively there are proofs that there are identities of law who need to pretend they can't understand these evidences that there is natural law. And part of that nature is complete identity of these other parts, the way it is bound to our demonstration to us, communications to us, being again progressive, and then that identity of time. The 5th one, being the extent we don't know about, but we know that it's also a part of the future. But caring for those 5 parts of time simultaneously, positive or not per sense, per what was really the value of things. That's for correlation. the identity of hyper-simultaneous, the identity of logic, reason. It uses correlation. You have a quality of fact treatment nature at forced at locations, areas, A states, everywhere the species volume is, A through Z. That is postures of practicality per that certain type of, it was multi-front too, child abuse. You guys have other communicated for James Madison and our founders behind him and his plan, and that which George Washington agreed to. And you speak about the Declaration of Independence. You can need all kinds of music and you know, differences, self-valued of campuses A through Z collusion. This is how they can make people A through Z self-valued roles, keeping other things, others, or selves blamed for what is forcing still and did originally per that breaching method, for example, to discern part of it. Black and white to mean and communicate. So to prevent how it communicates by nature. In other words, all exceptions, or to be the exception nature, try, pretend to be four sides. They just four sides of issues. This breaching method uses all sides of cases. The difference between them are guilty or the other ones, they use a difference. With fact treatment nature, quality aspects in nature. Forgiveness is not to leave out the breaching method for other reasons too, because to discern the breaching method, we have to discern right, where, and how. Formal identities of the law, private ones, and people A through Z, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, communications, locations, names, and everyone's family members, everyone speaks to others. This maintains use /S of all natures of investigators, to lock down fake integrity of positive, negative, and or names treatments, but also and or sequence value treatments, and or the value of collusion treatments. So we're going to have to discern the difference between the hyper-invisible but still discernible and the invisible but still discernible. On a mass scale, they've been putting fake and changed audio and video transcripts into databases to keep up with this breaching method, tortures, extorts, and keeps fact treatment nature enslaved and pretending otherwise that body is sensed the branches of government's leaders. Originally still. In other words, James Madison and our founders behind him and George Washington, we're supposed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. That would have brought up the founders behind James Madison and his plan. That would have brought up how they had to counter extort the other founders. That would have brought up how they were only capable of it because everyone was terrified. Everyone was enslaved. All exceptions, exception nature. They were using that to screen the breaching method to pretend other, because everyone was. This is the breaching method that makes and keeps denials of simultaneously hurting and helping our own through our own. Everywhere the human species body has a name. So know how we have no control over the species body, but one way, hyper-additionally, for it. And it has no control over us, but one way. But control is seeking improperly discernment of invisible but still discernible, and hyper-invisible but still discernible. Hyper-invisible but still discernible is why and is how. We need more than one name for the verb. Is why and is how. Subjects individually grouped and simultaneously. They are connected by and has the same identity, its identity of relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that. Especially as each species body here, let alone our own humanity, our species value is the one forcing us from here, Leaf of Hadith. While we have suburbs that were designed before our founders were born, and Native Americans were still had been sustained against them already. They were already fighting with each other because they're already stripped from means to cause positive value nature progressions action nature's per its system. Its use of ground and or water, its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously / hyper-simultaneously. It is hyper-native pure. It shows us nature itself, not just our founders. President / chief comes with cipher that we must complete, we must decipher here. All is hyper-native pure. And so the native words, if the hyper-native pure words and sciences are abridged, they can't afford the demonstrations of nature that native means to appreciate Earth's a special difference in their own hyper additionally within as its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that simultaneously. Men want to have debates about religion so they can make people measured and maintained, walk into courts, still collusion / S, also on off corrections offices and judicial branch offices. Also, every time they will use the words like crimes, so we have to be lawyers, police forms, and judges. We have to keep it real, and that will take our backs. Mandated law will set us free. Also, victims advocates have been dishonest with their passions and emotions as roles with crime scenes and with news planting evidences as collusions. And with names increasingly next to, there's a Chuck Casper and there's a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, who non-verbally confirmed roles with Thaddeus Grabowski, with names involved from other areas, and on Hangdog Lane and Two Rod Highway and its conjunctions and adjacents through time. Also with a Casper family, I don't know, he has a sister. I don't know how his mother's made him. These are people involved with the intelligence family that are involved with the roles with counters to things they have, and planting evidence as collusions with things, as roles forcing natures of organized abuses of each age of factory nature with the same names at a whole bunch of different locations, while having been used remotely leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense. People all along Ridge Road have been influenced to plant fake things and fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, with people involved with the World Trade Center attack and wire crimes of Weatherfield police chiefs retired, and the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, and people with unions also planting evidences at campuses and crime scenes, where and how they have the rights to lie against other people in elections and stuff used where they don't have the right to lie. And for example, lies years ago that were timed collusions with other natures of organized crime and relative untimely deaths and timed use / S of them. So people from Trinity College record and people with Bryant University associated with the Luigi Guerrero have roles with also Saudis and Americans, both sides of the attack and the counter properly, but improperly, and the difference of that is used. Because in other words, I never had a conversation with Luigi Guerrero including that's why they had a drive to Bryant University and Johnson in Wales has roles with people with the name Zano. There's a Jack Zano, a Paul Zano. I believe there's a Paula Zano also. And neighbors of theirs, like with the name Mayano. Are involved with our people in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, involved with a whole bunch of different countries and police and medical families on all sides of Harvard Hospital, like with the name Mayano, as one of the neighbors in Weathersfield, who's also involved with this next to Harvard Hospital. People with the name Mayano, per the John Mayano. Involved also there with people associated with all natures of politicians, as one's time collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and not legitimately as unmarked police forms, and roles planting evidences at corners of streets with acting professors, and at the corners of streets, planting evidences with news and with judges, family members, and police families as the ones time collusions with criminal enterprises, and with the educators putting kids to fake ties with themselves that they never communicate with and with others, as people involved with all sides in criminal and civil cases, in the interbranch switching names and sequences, putting fake things in databases, planting and screening their actual motivations, while they are confessing and demonstrating as the foreigner are also with their families. Like people from Afghanistan and Pakistan sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have roles with people with some KKK themed, black themed uses of corners of buildings and uses of roles with predicate acts with facts of Weathersfield town offices. And the community center has something to do with it too. A bunch of people from Harvard Hospital with the intelligence community have been planting evidences with names on all sides of the community center too, as the ones involved all along, increasingly with names like Weathersfield Pizza has wire crime acts and methods with Weathersfield police that are used to fake the conversation with me and a Steven Stocco. I never had a conversation with a Steven Stocco in my life. Weathersfield, I called there, and they're lying about what they're putting fake motivations. A Steven Stocco has confessed and recorded roles with child offenders intercities and with the Board of Education and with the state judicial branch offices, involved with these fake conversations with me and fake motive plantings. Also with the neighbors of apparently who is his wife, Maria Pizzino, who has a whole bunch of different judges and people at Harvard Hospital also involved with the names like a Mark Violet and a Ray Cololo, and also with a Brian Bowen, involved with all kinds of, the intelligence at Harvard Hospital and along Route 3 with masculine different kinds of things that with the Ray Cololo brought up, and his roles with wire crimes and trying to, it's something because I caught a Phil Cololo by a Bob Chase is one of the ones that is the Bob Chase said was involved with the police report that they used to force the since proven principal child abuser. And there were more that he confessed to me. They replaced those confessions to me. And they put fake audio and video. They have more with the police chief's family. There's a Mazzucato at the corner of Elm Street in Rocky Hill who has rules with my neighbor who worked there, who's a cousin of the Phil Cololo apparently, who worked there, reportedly, who worked there with years ago at the corner of Elm Street and Weathersfield and the one in Rocky Hill. There's also Oliveri family, a whole bunch of people tied to them at Trinity College, and people that went to Trinity College recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, as ones involved also with the untimely deaths and planting evidences with the ones on my street in Weathersfield, timed intercities, the same ones involved that were planting evidences and confessions about their roles with the names next to Central Connecticut State University that own those buildings and houses there through time, involved with the intelligence community in Weathersfield, been using them. They record people themselves speaking to people after they already recorded themselves communicating other to people. because they have roles with prosecutors and judges who have live progressions because they have roles of predicate acts on intercities connected through time. As ones involved with confessions to me from people I don't even know from my town to dislike. In other words, and it's not personal. This is the interbranch won't get on paper since I was a kid because they've been stacking fake audio and video and collusion at crime scenes into databases. And they've been changing evidences and faking digital, and then they make it go away from your email. You know, all the sent messages. That's also how all these police forms. You're going to bring more up if you don't just. It's in his defendant capacities anyway, and his lawyers, and their co-defendants with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. And like, for example, there are more things with the Russians. My sixth grade class has something to do with Russians, increasingly with people with the name Peruta and others I don't know the names of, who are on off Harvard Hospital, involved with more World Trade Center predicate acts, with judges, family members speaking fake things into databases, and doctors attaching little kids and their families to fake conversations with themselves and others, while tactically delusions raw and collusions with the people planting evidences on all sides of the kids' houses while they got sick people leading the kids then and further. And I could heal them instantly. I'll teach them what a delusion is. But you have to get them on paper, one name and sequence, because they're lying to the parents too. They're making them self-value roles because they've been using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. And so they're leaking too by making me beg you to get them on paper and making me use other people's names. People all along Ridge Road will tell you they don't know me. They only know me. People associated with Mark Violet and Mike Violet. A whole bunch of people involved with Chet Casper. And you know, what they do against boys and girls is sickly distinctly, but increasingly people from the intelligence community are involved with behavior racketeering, where they put people to describe how they think or what they think about or what they know about other people fake and self-value that. Used remotely criminally foreign influence as their roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases. And answers to those questions. How people can have the audacity to keep roles keeping out how we have black people's rights of eyes. It means to discern and delineate the delusions from the criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature of all formal identities of law. So, in other words, they're trying to make jobs as Democrats or as Republicans. And like, so Trump wants to debate the math, where and how leaders speak about the economic variables and things like that, inflation and stuff like that, because everyone's forcing them to, though, too. And that's all that's been known. But and the whole time, the breaching method is measuring and maintaining the differences of the leaders as individual voice or the people prevented that quality of fact-achieving nature necessary with theory, let alone convictions, with syntax of short words, let alone a protraction. So they're all sides in criminal and civil cases. This breaching method measured and maintained them, only capable of being because of the layers of what was entrenched and claimed law by the breaching method that had been perfected since before modern religious messengers were born. So all we have to do is force mandated law, because we're going to observe predicate acts with facts roles way worse than crimes they're putting little kids in jails for, where the people running them and investigators associated with them are also. See, forgiveness is not to leave out how other countries have sick things and differences too, to hide behind. So in other words, the suburbs were designed for the torture, extortion, and slavery of our founders who disbelieved. Have them pick one name and sequence, please. and get me off the fake conversations with WFSB about the World Trade Center attack. There is an officer, Jerry Miller, who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he has people with the name Kerr and DeMora and Cololo involved further next to your location, WFSB, involved with wire crimes with you, other natures of predicate acts, and with state police families, interstates, and with foreign and domestic military, and with more people at the campuses, and with the principal child abusers campus, and their involvements with other kids of other principals at the same school and other schools through time, and their neighbors' houses, and all sides of houses, and the difference of that. All that's recorded. So please get on paper with the Wethersfield Police regarding the principal child abuser's confessions and more names he brought up, and how they fabricated digital crimes with kids with the police chiefs confirmed now, and also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved retired police chiefs involved with the same house /S with federal crimes at the Wethersfield Police Station through time that are connected as timed collusions with the names at the campuses, like a Gold fan, a former Mayor Gold, and a Debbie Gold, and a whole bunch of people tied to her, and a Chet Casper involved with the people on Fox Connecticut News as the ones with next to WFSB, next to WTNH, because it's also the FBI. You know, there's a Dr. Shub of modern languages who's also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a whole bunch of other. He doesn't know that, but he knows to an extent, involved with a whole bunch of other judges and people that work with his wife with probate courts, with names on Two Route Highway and where it runs into Hangdog Lane, who have roles with various natures of criminally foreign influence, factory nature, quality aspects, and natures relative to natures of organized crime, originally still manifest associations and roles with use of those locations remotely criminally foreign influence. And as the people involved with the wire crimes, like with the name Cololo and Smith with the Wethersfield Police. And I had to write a complaint against the Judge Smith when I was a kid. And thank God I had a father to help me understand how to do that. Increasingly, they've been touching me to fake and change communications with my family members since I was a kid. Fake ties to other fake natures of ties to other people, as the names in all sides in criminal and civil cases. These are also people that make fake exceptions. Like I never saw on campuses my entire life. Then all of a sudden, 1 second, I saw a Justa Klavinskis and a Lucinda. I don't know what her. I think her name was Alderuccio. I don't know. Sorry if it wasn't. If anyone has their name, but in other words, a Lucinda associated with Judge Gravinskis. I don't know Lucinda. I never had a conversation with her in my life. They tried to make a fake exception when I was in high school. That was a confirmation. She had been in my class, in my school, but not in my class. Like in some other classroom I never saw around the school. Her name was repeated to me so I would remember. And my name was repeated to her. She has roles reportedly with me as leasing agents and next to and New Britain's locations near, and people associated with the big box stores and things like that with the intelligence community, foreign and domestic, as ones at the same time with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and they're hiding behind acting professors because there are other mayors that I don't know, just like this. I don't know this Mayor Gold, who increasingly have roles. Like he had roles with my 6th grade class and people in other classes planting evidences in databases, also with medical families that I never had communications with at all. They're pretending into databases with mayors. There's also people associated with mayor next to the state, the Department of Education's building, as people involved with overt criminal enterprises, and they force Saudis to collusions with them as people involved with the World Trade Center attack location and the locations next to it, like the Ninth Circuit Court next to it. It was proven after the attack, timely sent into the Ninth Circuit Court legal papers, time-stamped properly in the court. They had then been post-dated and presented to the panel of judges that day, post-dated from inside the court to appear late, as if they'd been handed in late. That was proven after the World Trade Center attack, which that was in that day, right before it though. So we came home and see the World Trade Center attack, shock and awe. And then the counter to shock and awe stayed it though too. All sides A through Z. This breaching method employed was to be only natural as criminal insidiousness, but claimed natural, and that defendant used to measure and maintain collusion with that, for example, to hide behind increasingly, because it knew that nature would make demonstration of roles with anyone's motivations. With the breaching method, and or that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority of people, even if it is everyone. So it is itself the identity of hyper-simultaneous, 5 ways bound distinctly from how, 3 ways bound, but also non-distinctly, and for description proper of how and of what we could actually discern, and or what is credible. So all kinds of takes on theory are used to maintain self-value. Natures of debate, styles, and natures that can't defend themselves and afford any American voice. Counters to what uses all location /S collusion also at all sides of criminal and civil cases. And with all exceptions, exception nature. Use tactical terror from how nature communicates with exception. No, how we have the same color eyes, we have except for how we have different color eyes at the same time. See, this breaching method put black and white and sustained roles with it because it knew how it could get people to be styles of different racketeering natures, worse than war crime, while pretending another as good people. But how is evil A through Z? Doesn't matter too. In other words, that's why no one speaks up for people hurt most by this. Fake science is pretending other. When we have black people's whites of eyes to see, discern. Please learn. Vaccine. I teach those things, but long. So the people, the thank people who listen. Let me see. Wait. This Ron Adams said that he made confessions before about his roles with police and obfuscating and evidences with child defenders and police. And he even brought in a judge in Napolitano. He said he was at a wedding with a judge in Napolitano one time. Shouldn't play games and change what people said or self-value roles with other people doing it and focus on the acts. Like the principal child abuser who planted acts with the news at the same time, who forced that. With worse, I recorded because there were more with the kids and interbranch. You guys want to make that because you want to leave out the other foreign. There's the FBI director, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, and the judges who are and have been speaking fake things, and their family members. A whole bunch of judges, not just ones tied to the use of the Dr. Shiva of modern languages, involved with translators. No, with the wars, people involved, the same one involved with Afghan leaders and kids, involved with predicate acts with facts there, tied to the ones around Trinity College. A whole bunch of people tied to Ray Kalal. There's a Julie Mancuso. I never had the pleasure of meeting her or her sisters, but she was brought up in confessions also. And then there were the reports of a murder in Wethersfield that might have been tied to that. As these are people tied to other murders and untimely deaths. A whole bunch of people with the intelligence community, foreign and domestic, tied to and as. One's named DeMoro and Scalora, who have roles with planting fake ties and nature ties to people, with also people with New York City, with the name Fred Gruzet, who a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital have been planting evidences on my street from other areas. And I never saw a subby scalora or any scalora on my street in my life. In other words, the police switching names made confessions bringing up the name Scalora. And these are one of the Scalora. There's a Claudia Scalora who's one of the ones involved with people on the World Trade Center and the spots next to it, and the news next to WFSB. She has boyfriends and Saudi people associated with her that she knows and doesn't realize. Also, at the same time, rolls with them with predicate acts with facts. World Trade Center predicate acts. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with them about the World Trade Center attack while they were forcing the principal child abuser, and rolls with people at Mazzucato Bakery, also involved with there's a Reno Mazzucato, who's one of the ones can't make it up. People tied to him, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, just planting evidences through time with Wethersfield Police Chief all along Route 175. Well, and with their educators. In other words, I never had a class with him and Arena Ani Mazzucato. And they have neighbors of theirs, like with the name Domain. There are some Domain police. They're involved with Fox Connecticut News. A whole bunch of people next to Fox Connecticut News, like a Thaddeus Skrbowski, who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, has roles right before and long time before and since a 2006 district court case involved with them with predicate acts that have something to do with their roles with the locations next to and as Fox Connecticut News. The same names have roles with and as, like ones with the name Mendez, involved with predicate acts with wire crimes and falsified police reports, and with this Bob Chase confessions of a Phil Cololo further involved with the principal child defenders confessions. He also brought up a Mike Levine. Also, Mike Levine demonstrated true his confirmed true non-verbally. I don't even know him. If he pretended he had a conversation with me, that's even worse. Rolls with the side of where Caldor used to be. It's now a Walmart off of Town Line Drive. That side entrance has something to do with all sides with the World Trade Center attack tied to them. And people at Central Connecticut State University involved with the Dean Judd and a Dean Alford at Trinity College has a Joshua Stryker who lied about himself growing up and about me growing up. I don't even know them. They tried to get, the only time ever saw them, they wanted me to sell drugs through UPS, which also got brought up by the people involved with judges and prosecutors, planting evidences before and after the World Trade Center attack next to Central Connecticut State University. All sides of it are involved. But in other words, as the ones also after the World Trade Center attack to cover it up, sequence shifts, as ones increasingly involved with people on my street with wire crimes and Wethersfield police, people that used to live here. And it's not personal. And they also involved recorded dishonest about why we're using other people's names and what they think about us or other people. I can show you how this is recorded. That's why I have to get them on the paper, one name is sequence. Since I was a kid, they've been attaching me to faked and changed communications with my own family and with themselves into branch. You fear God. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. Let me show you what's actually recorded. Yeah.